We're here at the American Music Festival here on the Virginia Beach ocean front. Behind me is 4th Street, where our main stage is getting built for this weekend. There is a lot of work that takes place. Here on the beach, we have to actually build our venue. So behind me, they're working on our sound mix position. A block away, they're starting on the main stage here at 4th Street. The sand always presents some unique challenges for us. Just getting all of this equipment and gear out on the beach takes a little bit of effort, and it takes a lot of people. You know, it's literally hundreds of people who make this happen and hopefully bring smiles to the faces of people who will be here. We'd love for everyone to come on out to the American Music Festival this weekend. There'll be plenty of great things to do, great music to listen to. You can find out all the information on beachstreetusa.com.
I'm just glad that we continue to have these retreats on an annual basis. It really does allow us to get our goals established and keep us organized throughout the year.
This just gives us an opportunity to talk in general about the issues that we're dealing with and to have some good dialogue with the City Council, among the City Council, that we just don't have time for in our weekly meetings.
Our area has an opportunity for several different reasons to become one of the technology hubs in all of the United States, and that's what we're focused on, is recruiting and retaining data center users, becoming a fiber hub for subsea Atlantic cables, and also making sure that our citizens are some of the most connected citizens in the world.
We talked about a lot of good things going on this year, but we also talked about the challenges, like stormwater management and funding for it.
It's a major overall system that we're trying to develop for the whole city. It's not just a piecemeal set of projects. And because it's this overall system, it is a long-range plan, but I liken it or see the similarities with our solving our water supply issue that we did during the 80s and 90s. It sometimes is a long haul, but we have to really stick with it, decide what we want our end goal to be, our end state to be, and just keep working toward that goal. And I think that's where we are with the stormwater.
Much like you'd want every neighborhood to be as safe from a public safety point of view as every other neighborhood. So flood protection or mitigation is just like fire protection and just like police protection. You want to make sure that every neighborhood is equally safe.
We're on the verge of some really good things. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about, that we make sure we keep our public involved with us and aware of everything that we're doing. We answer the questions, and I think when we do that, then the public understands what we're trying to achieve, and we can all work better together.
At the conclusion of these meetings, the council comes together united and says, okay, we got these challenges, we're going to figure them out, we're going to deal with them.
We received at least a dozen or so applicants. They were really incredible. We came and selected Richard Nichols.
I designed three different murals for 3 different sites here in the parking garage. My idea was to create murals that, of course, welcome people in, almost like a postcard.
It helps not just brighten the area, but it also transforms these spaces into works of art.
If you've ever spent any time in parking garages, they're notoriously unfriendly. And I've seen a huge difference in the way people respond to this parking garage since we've been painting. They're all very excited to see something colorful in here, something bright and very happy.
We want to be a destination where people remember us for our public art and how we connect to folks both local and people coming in.
Today's our graduation ceremony. 6 months ago, I never thought this day would come.
We are graduating finally. The light at the end of the tunnel is bright. We've been in since March 30th, 2017, so about 24 weeks. We've learned everything from constitutional law, firearms, driving, defensive tactics, different aspects of law like juveniles.
My mother was a victim of murder. When I was 5 years old, she was killed. Ever since then, I always wanted to make a difference and, help people who, couldn't help themselves.
I want to serve the community and give back to the community and serve the citizens and be the person that they call for help.
I'm excited for the Virginia Beach Police Department for giving me opportunity. They saw something in me and my classmates also, and I'm very proud to be here. It's been a long 6 months, and I'm here today, and we're ready to hit the streets and help the people of Virginia Beach.
How long have you lived in the area?
We're just trying to feel out what may have changed that we're not seeing.
Would you like to just answer a couple questions for me?
Do you think crime is generally a problem here in Atlantis?
We are in the 2nd police precinct of our city, and tonight we're conducting community surveys.
What about people trespassing and loitering, hanging around that shouldn't be here?
We have about somewhere in the vicinity of 60 or so members of our department out tonight who are going to conduct these surveys. We have in the vicinity of 1,800 or so targeted residents, and we're going to get to as many of those as we can.
Have you heard gunshots or anything like that in the area?
Community neighborhood surveys are really a way for us to outreach with the community, to engage in direct dialogue, to find out what their community concerns are, how we're doing our job, and what it is we can do better.
It helps it become much safer. It educates everyone on what we should do when we do recognize, something wrong. And it also gives a sense of security to young children in the neighborhood. They need to know that the police are not their enemies, but their allies.
It's not really the neighborhood here, it's the people that come in the neighborhood, always, that gives the problem. So, and now the police ride more. We ain't even had no problems at all this year.
This neighborhood has definitely cleaned itself up over the years, just through positive interaction with law enforcement. There's been a lot of change going on here.
Is there anything that you guys may have concerns about?
We get to talk face to face, and some of these folks have never really spoken to an officer before. So they might presume certain things about the police and what we do in the way of our business, but this is our opportunity to talk to them and let them know that we're real people and we are concerned about their concerns.
I'm Julie Braley with Virginia Beach Parks and Recreation, and I'm being joined today by 2 important members of our Landscape Management Division, City Arborist Susan French and Brian Crouch, who is also a certified arborist and tree risk assessor. We get a lot of questions from citizens about how we go about determining whether a tree is healthy or not and when we decide to take one down. We wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the process and dispel some of the myths about how we go about determining tree health. I'm here with Susan and Brian, and we're going to get started in learning about how we determine tree health here in the city. Brian, can you tell us a little bit about when the city would get involved in assessing the health of a tree?
They would get involved when somebody calls in and puts in a service request for concerns regarding the tree, whether it be leaning or cavities or anything like that.
So what does the process look like for determining when we would get involved and sort of the steps that you all go through in assessing the health of the tree?
Well, once it's determined if the tree is on city property, I then make a site visit and verify everything. You generally look at the tree as a whole. You look at the site as a whole, see if there's been any failures or anything like that. Then you go to the tree and start assessing the roots as well as the trunk and the canopy.
Excellent. So we've got this tree right behind us here. Why don't you walk us over and tell us a little bit about this particular tree? So first off, why don't we start by talking about some of the tools that you all would use when you're going out to assess a tree?
One of the first things we use will be our International Society of Arboriculture Tree Risk Assessment form. This is a complete assessment and helps you determine the exact risk for any trees that may or may not be hazardous.
Excellent. And Brian, I see you've got some other tools here. What are we looking at?
We're looking at, of course, binoculars, which are used almost exclusively on every assessment. Then I have a drill with 7 64-inch bits. They're about 12 inches long. These are used to measure the thickness of healthy wood when you know you have a cavity inside the tree, or to measure the thickness of the of the decay when the cavity is open and facing the outside and you can see it. This is something we don't always do, but when we know it's there and we need to know how much we're dealing with as far as sound wood, this is when we use this. I also have a soil probe which has 3-inch increments on it. This is good for finding out if you have compacted soils, how compacted they are. It's good for looking for decayed areas in the roots. If you have areas that are that it sinks into real deep that should be solid, you know you have decay in there. It's good for quite a few things, but those are the two main things I use it for.
All right, Brian, can you tell me, are there things that you can do to heal a tree or methods that you guys might use to try and save one?
Well, actually, trees don't heal, they seal. Once you have an open area in a tree, a cavity, it's never going to fill back in with healthy tissue. It's always going to be a cavity. But what the tree will try to do is wall off the cavity with this stuff called callus, where it rolls over and tries to create a wall to protect itself.
All right, Susan, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the obvious signs that a tree might not be healthy?
Well, the first thing we look at to determine its general health would be the top of the tree. We want to see the canopy, and the top canopy includes the larger structural branches called scaffold branches, and also all of the smaller branches that come away from that. And what we're looking for is no decay and a lot of leaves. In this particular tree, we can see that about 50% of what should be on the tree has been gone as far as the leaves go. We also see a lot of decay along the branches. We see actual mushrooms, fungi, growing along there. And if you look closely, you can see a lot of bare branches and broken branches, where the branches have simply started to die and are decaying up toward the trunk of the tree.
So even though those leaves are green, the tree still isn't healthy?
Correct. As long as the tree's vascular system can pull up moisture, it can continue with leaves. Now the leaves will gradually become smaller and less healthy with time. But right now what we're seeing is that there's only half of what we would expect to see in a tree this size.
I think that's really interesting that you say that, because a lot of times when we hear from people, and just myself going out and looking at a tree, if it has green leaves and the branch doesn't look totally dead, I mean, you might think that the tree is perfectly healthy. So that's really interesting.
Yes, it can be deceiving, but you can look and you can tell if you compare it with other leaves. With this tree, these leaves with another tree that's a willow oak as well, you could see the difference in them.
Well, Brian and Susan, this has been so interesting, and I know I have learned a lot. So why don't we go take a look now at what a healthy tree looks like so we have a good comparison. All right, Susan, so this is obviously a much different story than we're seeing with this tree here. So can you tell us some of the obvious signs that make this tree so much healthier than the previous one?
Well, this is the same type of tree that we saw a short distance away. This also is a willow oak tree, but this is a healthy one, and it's a whole different story. You can look up and see in the canopy of the tree how full it is. It's more than twice the size of the previous tree. The leaves are longer, fuller, greener, so you can tell there's a lot of active photosynthesis going on here. When you look at the trunk, you can also see that there's no damage at all to the bark. It's not open, there's no bare wood, there's no mushrooms. Yay! What you do see, though, are lichen along the trunk.
I was going to ask you about that. So is that a fungi as well, or is that dangerous to the tree?
Not at all. Lichen is not a fungi. It's an interesting cross between different organisms, but it's not dangerous to the tree, bottom line.
So obviously sometimes we have to take down trees here in the city, as much as we hate to do it. Can you talk a bit about, when we have to make that tough decision and some of the things that we do in that instance?
When we determine that the tree is hazardous, as with the previous tree, we try to have it removed as soon as possible to prevent any damage. Our overall goal for our department is public safety. And when trees are above target areas, private property or roadways, and they're deemed to be unhealthy and actually hazardous, we do have to remove them, but it tears out a little bit of your heart each time.
Absolutely. Well, Susan, this has just been absolutely fascinating. Is there anything else that viewers and citizens should know about the work that we do to try and protect our trees so that they don't end up in a situation like that previous one we looked at?
Yes, I would like them to know and believe that we preserve trees whenever possible. We have canopy goals for Virginia Beach, and we love trees. We only remove trees when they're determined to be hazardous for public safety.
Well, that's wonderful. We really appreciate Susan taking her time and coming out here and telling us about the wonderful work that our Landscape Management Division is doing here in the city, and we look forward to bringing you more stories like this in the future.
The event we're hosting today is the SWaM Business Forum. This is our 5th year, and our focus is on the healthcare sector. We decided on the healthcare sector this year to parlay our bio initiative, which is one of the new initiatives we have here in the city of Virginia Beach.
I was born here and raised here. I love Virginia Beach as my city. So hearing that it's an up-and-coming area for something I'm so passionate about and so interested in is really, really reassuring. It makes me feel like it'd be okay for me to come back here in 10 years and want to start up working here and be a part of this growing community.
The individuals from Charleston, South Carolina are here to look at some of the SWaM initiatives that we have.
We are scouring the southeastern coast, if you will, looking for innovative programs that will help increase that minority participation. The most interesting part that we haven't seen in other municipalities is bringing on board the younger generation through high school partnerships. So looking at the 2 different high schools and their programs and how the city partners with them in several different capacities really intrigued us.
The reason why we engaged the student population are twofold. One was Kingsville High School, which has an entrepreneurial academy. Our SWaM businesses deal with entrepreneurs. So we wanted those students to see entrepreneurs at work. We also engaged Bayside High School, which has the Health Sciences Academy. And in that, this is focused on the healthcare sector. We thought this was important for them to get a feel for the health industry and what was available to them.
We do this regularly, but to hear the questions from students and to know that from an entrepreneurial standpoint, this is something that they want to get into and they are looking for expertise. And I think that was extraordinarily beneficial for everyone to hear.
We're very pleased with the turnout we had today. We believe the small businesses gained a lot from the information that was shared, and we appreciate the support that we get from the entire city.
We're here today to help inaugurate a new connection. A connection not just between Virginia and Spain, but really a connection that will bring the next billion users of the internet in Africa, in the Middle East, across Southern Europe, closer to those of us who live in the United States. This is part of the infrastructure of the 21st century.
This hub in Virginia Beach will allow information to be disseminated promptly throughout the United States, and the Bilbao hub, with its proximity not only to Europe, but also to Northern Africa and the Middle East, really draws that world closer and closer together, and how important that it is in the Commonwealth.
Our city is the largest city in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but half of our city is not developed. And that means we have a lot of people in the rural part of our city that do not have the services that they so desperately need. And Microsoft in particular has been a big part of helping us reach out to them. We're going to be able to provide the service, and also the service is going to be provided at a lower cost than it's been in the past.
It's the first time that we are building a new road, completely diverse, connecting the Mid-Atlantic.
This new digital technology infrastructure is going really to transform our economic development opportunities in Virginia Beach. It will provide incredible new opportunities for families, children to be able to connect, do their homework, explore the world.
At Facebook, our mission is to bring the world closer together. We want to make it possible for people to have meaningful connections with the people and the communities that matter to them, anytime and anywhere. And to do that, connectivity is key. And this is why the Marea cable line is so important to us and why we're so excited about it.